Michael Penix is hurt. What do we do now?
You are Locked On Falcons, your daily Atlanta Falcons podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome back, everyone, to another illustrious episode of the Locked On Falcons podcast, your daily Atlanta Falcons podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. And Locked On Podcast Network is, of course, now the number one sports podcast in America, the number one in the world, the number one in the solar system, and the number one in the galaxy. And we can only thank you, the everydayers, the people that make this podcast and so many others across this network your first listen each and every day. We call you the everydayers. All you have to do to become an everydayer is subscribe and follow for free on YouTube or wherever you listen to podcasts. Today's Locked On Falcons is brought to you by FanDuel. Right now, new customers can bet just $5. And if your bet wins, you'll get $300 in bonus bets to use all across the FanDuel app. So I'm your humble host, Aaron Freeman. We'll be talking today about Michael Penix's injury in the Falcons' 30-27 overtime loss to the Carolina Panthers in Week 11. We'll also be talking about Raheem Morris's job status, as well as what was the moment. You know, I leave a comment if you're here on YouTube, or hit me up to tell me the moment where you knew the Falcons were going to lose on this particular Sunday. Maybe you woke up like that. Maybe there was a moment in this game. I'll give you my moment when I knew this team was going to have 5 straight losses. And so that will be what we'll get into later in the episode. But let's jump right into sort of the big talking point that should be coming out of this game. No, it's not Raheem Morris is firing, although, we'll see. We'll talk about that later. But it's really Michael Penix getting injured. He injured his knee late in the third quarter, did not exit the game. Kirk Cousins came in, finished the game. And we did not get an update after the game from Raheem Morris, and he basically said we need to do essentially more testing on it, which is not a good sign. And he took a hit on the blitz. I guess landed wrong because they showed the replay and there wasn't a clear mechanism for a knee injury on that particular play. And of course, that's a concern given Michael Penix's extensive background of knee injuries. For those of you that don't know, he tore both of his ACLs during his time at Indiana so many years ago. And so, you can't help. Maybe you can. Maybe you guys are better than me than this. But my mind immediately goes to he suffered, I'm not going to say a no contact injury, but not a clear cut, he got hit low and he busted his knee. It's just he got pushed to the turf and injured his knee. That's not a good sign. That's not a non-contact injury because there was contact on the play, but it wasn't contact to the knee. Well, the only thing that contacted the knee was the turf. So I'm nervous, right? And now that the season is officially over, we had moved on. Now the Falcons are 3-7. It's officially it's a wrap, right? For everybody on the planet, it's a wrap. We here on Locked On Falcons, I can't speak for all of you, but the humble host of Locked On Falcons, we were like, oh, season's done when the Falcons fell to 3-4 after they lost to Miami in Week 8. That was the point when they could have gotten their season back on track, and it's just been downhill ever since, right? And after that Dolphins game, we came on the podcast, and I believe it was after the Dolphins game, we said there are 3 boxes that this regime has to check in order for them to walk away from this season feeling like, they had a successful season and therefore sell the ownership on bringing them back in 2026, right? One of those was the playoffs. That's done. Again, I don't know what their mathematical chances are at this point in time going into this game. It was less than 5% chance of making the playoffs. I'm assuming, I was Googling it all week. I couldn't find an answer, because of AI and all that stuff. And so they don't give you these answers. But I couldn't find an example of a team that was 3-7 that had made the playoffs in NFL history. So if they still have a mathematical shot, because I guess technically they can go 7-0 and get 10 wins, but that shot has got to be less than 1% at this point, 0.2% chance of making the playoffs. So that's cooked. They got to go 6-1 to get to a playoff, to a winning record. That was the second condition that we were talking about. If not playoffs, you got to get to at least 9-8, right? Or 8-1. Yeah, 8-1. They got to go 6-1 the rest of the way. That don't seem like it's happening. Again, we would love to see it. I would love to be sitting here and be like, oh my God, the Falcons are about to have the strongest finish ever in NFL history. But we know that ain't happening. And then, so the third thing was like, the 2 out of the 3 conditions are pretty much out the window. So the third condition was basically, you got to sell Arthur Blank that your development of Michael Penix is essential to his long-term success. That by the end of the season, Penix is going to be playing elite football, that you're going to be able to sell this ownership group on, telling them, hey, if you fire us and you bring in a better quarterback guru or whatever to develop Michael Penix, you're going to disrupt his development, and that's going to be a mistake. Obviously, we're not getting that on the field, and now with Penix's unknown injury status looming forward, could be done for an extended period of time, could be back this week. We have no idea. Again, Raheem Morris ain't giving you clean injury updates. He's going to be like, oh, well, he's week to week, and then he misses every game. I don't know. You know how Raheem is, right? And so if that's off the table, if Penix finishing strong because of now this injury, however long it keeps him out of the lineup, if that's now off the table, what else is there? Right? What else do we have going for us at this point for the Falcons? But why are all of us here? Right? I'm having an existential crisis, ladies and gentlemen. I'm like, what is the meaning of life now? If I don't have at least this one thing to look forward to, of being able to sit here and say, hey, Michael Penix is doing stuff. Because if he ain't doing stuff, ain't nobody else doing stuff. Hey, Drake, Bijan, you did some stuff today, but the rest of y'all, no. But we'll see. We'll hopefully get an update tomorrow. So hopefully that will be a topic of discussion on tomorrow, that, the Falcons dodged a bullet, and we'll have something going for this team. Because Lord knows, if we can't talk about Michael Penix's development, then we have nothing at this point in time. But let's talk about the Penix pump meter, because maybe this is the last pump meter we'll do this entire season, which again is a sad state of affairs. We don't know. Might be our last one. For those of you who are unfamiliar with the Penix pump meter, we do this every week after the game. Sort of my initial thoughts on the play of the Falcons' young quarterback. We measure it off of 4 levels: 0 pumps, 1 pump, 2 pumps, 3 pumps, right? Going back to the Key and Peele sketch, for those of you that have been following the Carolina Panthers and Rico Dowdle as of late, you understand. Hingle McCringleberry, you know what I'm talking about, right? It's now in the zeitgeist, we didn't start it, but we were trying to put it out there in the zeitgeist for a long time, and Rico Dowdle boosted the signal boost, and now it feels a lot more relevant than it felt for some of you guys. Are like, I don't like the pump meter back in August, but anyway, 0 pumps, nothing of a kind of nothing burger of a game. 1 pump is a solid game manager type performance for Michael Penix. 2 pumps is peak, right? That's the best of Michael Penix. 3 pumps is 2 pumps is a pump too many. You've gone too far. To me, this is kind of a 1 pump performance. You look at the stat sheets: 13 for 16, 174 yards. The numbers look good, but numbers make it look like a 2 pump performance. Again, we'll see what the film says, but like, to me, watching it live, like, Penix's accuracy issues that showed up quite a bit last week against Berlin or against the Colts in Berlin kind of showed up in this game. He was throwing a lot of high passes to Drake London. Now Drake was making some great catches, and to me, like, a lot of the box score that I'm looking at, a lot of that to me feels like Drake London, like Drake London doing his thing, having his flu game, so to speak, having a back injury all week because he's been carrying this offense. Basically, he exited the game late as well, so we'll have to wait and see on that one, because Lord knows. Oh, Michael Penix, no Drake London. Oh God. But we'll circle back to that. So to me, it was kind of a 1 pump performance. I might bump it up to a 1.5 pump performance, but like, to me, the eyeball test did not tell me this was a 2 pump performance, even though the box score might tell you that. But it was a decent bounce back game for Michael Penix. Unfortunately, we don't know how much of a bounce back, because we didn't get to see him in the fourth quarter. And maybe that could have been, had he come through in the clutch late in the game, we would have been giving this a 2 pump performance. So I'm going to go with 1 pump. We'll see if I come back and watch the film and be like, oh, this is better than I gave it credit for. We'll see on that. But, now that we talked about Michael Penix and his unknown status moving forward, let's talk about Raheem Morris's unknown status, because I know all of you are sitting here chomping at the bit, basically saying, Raheem should have been fired yesterday. And so I talked about going into this game, this was a possible game where if the Falcons did not perform the way that we wanted them to do, Raheem could possibly get fired. So you're wondering, do I think, based off of what I saw this particular day, do I think Raheem's going to get fired? I'm going to wake up tomorrow and find out that Raheem's been fired. I don't think so, but we'll see. So let's talk about it as we continue today's Locked On Falcons. So if you're still paying for, or you're paying for wireless, but don't overpay for wireless, it's time to say yes to saying no. At Mint Mobile, their favorite word is no. No contracts, no monthly bills, no overages, no hidden fees, no BS. I said yes to making the switch, and I'm now getting premium wireless for just $15 a month. Mint makes it simple. All plans come with high-speed data and unlimited talk and text delivered on the nation's largest 5G network. You can even bring your own phone and keep your same contacts and number. I love the fact that you're getting the same quality service that you had before, but only at a fraction of the price. I switched to Mint Mobile back in July to save some money, and I ain't noticed a difference in the quality of my coverages and the phone qualities and internet and all that stuff. And I'm now spending, I was spending $80 on phone. Now I'm spending $15 on phone. So if you're ready to say yes to saying no, like I was, make the switch at mintmobile.com/lockedonnfl. That's mintmobile.com/lockedonnfl. Upfront payment of $45 required, equivalent to $15 a month. Limited time new customer offer for the first 3 months only. Speeds may slow above 35 gigabytes on a limited plan, and taxes and fees are extra. See Mint Mobile for details. And today's episode is also sponsored by Georgia Access. Have your health or family needs changed lately? Georgia's got you covered. Georgia Access is our state's marketplace for Georgians to compare, apply, and enroll in health insurance plans that offer the best value for their individual needs. Open enrollment is happening right now. Visit georgiaaccess.gov today. Georgia Access, health insurance for Georgia, by Georgia. So I want to thank all of you for making Locked On Falcons the first listen of the day. And I want to thank you for making Locked On the number one podcast in the galaxy, number one podcast network in the galaxy. Yes, it's a great place to be. Not a great place to be if you're an Atlanta Falcon, though. Any sliver of a chance that Raheem Morris was going to be back in 2026 probably went out the door today, right? We will say, we will acknowledge the possibility that that Falcons could go 6-1 and get to 9-8, and Arthur Blake's going to be like, "Oh my God, this was incredible! Raheem, please come back and do it again." And it's not going to be a repeat of the Dan Quinn situation from 2019 to 2020. It's going to be different this time, right? Because that's what we tell ourselves every offseason, right? This time it's going to be different, right? But I acknowledge that possibility, that is a possible outcome. Just like I think all of you should acknowledge the possibility that Salma Hayek is off screen right now, butt naked, waiting for me to finish this podcast. So if this feels like I'm rushing this podcast a little bit because I got people to do and things to see, right? You should acknowledge that possibility, just like I acknowledge the possibility that the Falcons finish 6-1. And again, I'm sure some of you are like, what is Aaron talking about? Like, what is this? Is this what the show is going to be? Just Aaron making weird references to butt naked Mexican women off screen? I'm like, might as well be, because what else are we going to talk about? Right? The idea of sitting here watching this team for the next 7 games without Michael Penix on the field is maybe the worst thing I've ever said on this podcast in my entire life. Like, I can't even fathom that. Again, like I said, existential crisis right now. You're witnessing it, right? And I'm making up fantasies about butt-naked Mexican women on the podcast just to deal with it. That's the only thing that I can handle at this point. I'm going through a midlife crisis. I got to get back into therapy, guys. It's crazy, right? So all that said, all this nonsense going on the podcast as I'm going through a mental breakdown, ladies and gentlemen, live on your airwaves. We got to talk about, are the Falcons going to fire Raheem Morris, right? And that's going to be the ongoing topic of discussion, because that's all we're really going to talk about if we don't have Michael Penix to talk about the rest of the season, because Lord knows, it's just like, is this the week we fire Raheem? Is this the week we fire Raheem? And for the longest time this season, I've been like, nah, this is not going to be the week that they would fire Raheem. And this week was the first time all season where I was like, well, they might fire Raheem. And after, watching this team go up and have another collapse, as they often do, could this be the week? It's possible. I don't think it's likely. But we'll see. We'll see. But this is going to be, this is what the podcast is going to be. Well, this could be the week. This could be the week. So we'll see. And so now every week is going to be Raheem watch. And, part of my issue is like I'm lazy. I don't want to have to talk about that during the show. I just want to talk about what happens in the game on Sunday, review the film, talk about who's playing well, what are the pieces that we can build around. So I'm lazy. I just want to keep doing what I got to do. But at the same time, it at least will give us something new and different to talk about, because at this point in time, like you guys saw it on the Friday show with me and Jarvis, where it was like we didn't really talk about this Carolina game, because it's like, what else is there to say about this Falcons team at this stage, now 10 games into the season, that hasn't been said? All right, cool, man. Right? Like even, tomorrow's episode that when we get a second look at the game, like whatever, man. I don't care. I'm sorry, guys. I'm sorry. It's just like you're just sitting there. I'm sitting here like, oh God. Oh man. Thank God for Locked On being the #1 podcast, because network on the planet, because boy, this would be tough. This would be tough, if I wasn't sitting here getting these checks. I'll tell you that much, guys. It would be tough. So we'll see. We'll spend the next 2 months talking about firing Raheem and talking about how terrible the coach this team is, which it is. The coaching is terrible. Like no one's sitting here saying the coach is, but like the problem is going to be, at least for me personally, people are going to convince themselves that the next coach is going to be the savior. And it's like, no, he's not. Right? And people are going to convince themselves that, oh man, this team is so loaded with talent. And I've heard this conversation for the better part of a decade. Talent. Oh, this talent, the talent. And they've been outplayed by the Carolina Panthers twice. They got out physical by the Miami Dolphins. I'm so tired of people trying to pretend that this is a talented team. They're more talented than the record right now. They're more talented than the way that they're playing. This is not a good football team. This is not a well-constructed team. So, the only thing that's giving me joy is the possibility that they just completely blow this thing up at the end of the season, and this team finally gets the reset that it does, and hopefully ownership. Please, Arthur Blank, if you're listening, please, the next people that come in here, give them the path to build this thing, rather than this whole like, oh, well, we're just one piece away and then we just got to solve this one problem. Hey, if we just get a nose tackle in the corner, ooh, we're going to be back in the hunt, guys. Oh, we get another wide receiver. Oh, we're right back in this nonsense, right? I love this fan base, man. I appreciate this fan base. You guys are the reason why Locked On is #1, right? Because you guys, I love it, man. You've watched this team for now going on 8 years, have losing records, but every year you find a way to convince yourself that this is secretly an 11-win team. It's just the coaching that's holding us back, or the quarterback that's holding us back, and this is an 11-win roster, guys. Watch the games. They got beat by a 7-win roster today. So at least y'all stay consistent. I appreciate that for you. So I'm looking forward to them losing next week to Tyler Shuck and the Saints. And then we're just going to convince ourselves that, this Saints team that everybody thought was going to win 2 games this year, but, we're secretly an 11-win roster. So, yeah, I'm looking forward to that conversation this offseason. So, as you can tell, I hate it here. I absolutely hate it here. And watching this game, I had convinced, this is why I'm going through this, because I convinced myself watching the game, like, oh, they're actually going to win this. And then I realized, oh, no, they're not going to win this. And I'll break down exactly the moment when I was like, oh, no, they're not going to win this game. And we'll get into that to wrap up today's Locked On Falcons. Excuse me. The NBA season is back, and there's no better place to get in on the action than with FanDuel, the official sports betting partner of the NBA. Even if you missed the tip-off of a game, or you're just looking to ride the hot hand, FanDuel is going to have those live bets from everything who's going to score next to all of those fourth quarter comebacks. Plus, you can even combine those live bets into a same game parlay for a shot at a bigger payout. It keeps every game exciting, especially when your team's making that late game push. So right now, you can head on over to FanDuel right now, and if you're a new customer, you can get $300 in bonus bets when your first $5 bet wins. Again, that's $300 in bonus bets You just got to put $5 down. If it wins, they're going to give you $300 more to use all across the FanDuel app. All you got to do is go sign up at FanDuel.com. FanDuel, an official sports betting partner of the NBA. So let's go through the game. We haven't really talked about the game other than a couple of moments here or there. Same old Falcons, pretty much, right? First series, they come out, do nothing. Panthers score the very methodical 13-play drive, and you're like, oh, here we go again. Then the Falcons come out in their second series. They score. They get 2 big catches from Drake London, 30 yards and 41 yards. Bijan caps it off with a brilliant run, 4-yard run where he made like 3 defenders miss. And Falcons tie it up 7-7. And, the through line of like, oh, okay, you got to watch the first 2 series with the Falcons on offense to know if their offense is going to show up on a given day. And usually they lay a stinker for one of those series, and then one of the other series, they do really well. And so that proved true. And so after that second series, Falcons score 14 uncontested points at that point in time. I have a 21-7 lead, they after that third score, 90 seconds left in the first half. He's like, okay, defense, Panthers are going to get the ball to start the third quarter. So we just need to get a stop here, and then we'll be good, right? Panthers are probably going to score on one of these 2 drives, but if we can just get one stop, we'll be good, right? We'll still have a 2 score lead at that point. So 90 seconds, and then immediately Ted McMillan goes 39 yards on the first snap on a dig route. We love that cover 3. We saw Jalen Waddle cook it, and if Ted had Jalen Waddle speed, he would have scored. But fortunately, he got walked down. And fortunately, the Falcons defense holds in the red zone. Ted can't make the drive. He's open in the back of the end zone. Xavier Watts gets a fingertip on it. But it's like, ooh, Ted versus AJ. We were hoping that we would see AJ lock him down, and AJ did not lock him down. And so, it felt like, okay, the Mike Evans era is over of watching AJ get beat by a 6'5" wide receiver for the last 12 years, or not AJ for the last 12 years. Mike Evans been cooking the Falcons for 12 years, and only AJ for 5 of those 12. And it's like, okay, that era is over. And then now we got 12 more years of Ted McMillan because AJ didn't play that first game for those of you that missed it. And so we're like, okay, AJ will come in back and lock down Ted. And it's like, oh, okay. All right, well, that didn't work. And so the Panthers get the ball in the second half. Natron Brooks gets cooked on back-to-back plays, including a 36-yard touchdown to Xavier Legette. So the Panthers basically scored 9 points in 5 minutes, in the final 90 seconds of the second quarter and the first 3 minutes of the third quarter. They don't convert a 2-point conversion at that point. Should have just kicked it. Again, I don't understand why teams are chasing points at that point in time. Just kick the field goal, go down 4, going down 3 at that point. 12 minutes, 3 minutes into the third quarter doesn't make any sense. But appreciate you, Panthers. You put this thing away for us. But or you gave us a chance because, anyway, it doesn't matter. And then Natron Brooks gets cooked on those 2 plays, and then he fumbles the kickoff, the ensuing kickoff. So it was a tough day for Natron, and it's a tough day for me because now everybody's going to be like, Kobe Bryant should be starting because Kobe Bryant played in this game and was decent, and with Mike Hughes being injured and D. Alford being injured and, everybody convincing themselves that Kobe Bryant was a starting caliber cornerback. And unfortunately, me being the one person being like, I don't really buy that based off of all I've seen from Kobe Bryant. But unfortunately, that brand is taking a hit today. Kobe Bryant didn't play like a starter, but because when you're looking at, well, what other options do the Falcons have? It's like, well, might as well start them and see what's what. And so here we go. Clark Phillips all over again. I got to do it. People are like, we don't need a cornerback now because we got Kobe Bryant. All right? Again, that tells me you got an undrafted free agent that is meant to be the savior of your football team, but y'all want to sit here and convince yourselves that this is a good roster. But hey, y'all do you. So, fortunately, after that kickoff fumble, the defense gets a stop, but the offense is kind of dead in the water. Carolina is able to come back. Penix gets injured. They retake the lead with like 27-24 with a minute to go. Sitting here going like, I don't feel confident that Kirk's going to lead them back. But then Jamal Agnew busts a 40-yard return. It's like, okay, all right, we just need like 2 first downs and we're in field goal range. And David Sills shows up. It's like, oh my God, David Sills 11-yard catch. I'm like, oh my God, what is this happening? What I've never seen David Sills catch a pass before. This is incredible. This is this is outrageous. And then eventually it sets up for a game time field goal, and I had to learn the kicker's name. I finally learned the kicker's name, and I have it written down just so I forget it. The Falcons kicker is Zane Gonzalez. Okay. Zane Gonzalez. There you go. I had to write it down. So, if those of you that are listening to the podcast were like, what is this? What bit is this? For those of you that missed it, I basically, because of the Falcons revolving door, the funniest thing you can do is explain a joke. Because the Falcons revolving door at the kicking position, I basically am like, I'm refusing to learn the new kicker's name because he's got to earn that knowledge. And Zane earned it. He made a couple kicks in this game, barely. So we will learn his name just in time for him to ruin it next week against the Saints. So good on you, Zane. Good on you, Zane. So you got that. So of course the Falcons do nothing in overtime. And I had to look it up because I was like, man, it doesn't feel like the Falcons ever win an overtime game. I can't remember the last time they win an overtime game, and I forgot about the Week 5 game last year. Where Kadero Hodge had the walk-off touchdown, and Carolina was like, we didn't forget about the Kadero Hodge walk-off touchdown against the Bucs in Week 5 last year because Tommy Trimble almost had a walk-off touchdown right away. A 54-yard play. Caden Ellis thankfully caught him. Terrible tackling. Sets up the game-winning 28-yard field goal. And so, to me, the game-changing moment came in regulation where I was like, oh, they're not winning this game. I still had hope. And then Rico Dowdle busted a 38-yard screen for a touchdown. Now, fortunately, the review called it back and called him out at the 10-yard line. So it was only a 28-yard non-scoring screen. But when the Falcons got beat by a screen, I was like, that's not good, right? So the moment when Carolina went up with the game-winning score, so I stupidly had hope, guys. As you can tell, I had hope for 58 and a half minutes of this football game that the Falcons were going to win this game. Now, I had a pit in my stomach the entire second half of this game, being like, oh no, they're doing everything in their power to lose this game. But I still had that fleeting hope. It wasn't until I knew officially the Falcons weren't going to, and then even then they go back and, after that Dowdle play, they go back and score to tie the game and send it in overtime. And then Carolina wins the toss and they elect a kick. And I was like, oh, okay, now we're definitely losing. Okay, because we're not going to do anything on this first offensive possession. And he was right, right? Shout out to you, Ryan Nuzzel. You got an eligible man downfield, wiping out a 12-yard gain and killing all of our momentum. And again, that's not on Ryan Nuzzel. That's on this team and their inability to execute screens. Luke Getsy is somewhere smiling, somewhere being like, hey, I'm not the only OC that can't teach his guys how to execute screens properly. It was a slow developing play. So it's not even really Newsell's fault on that particular play. And again, that tells you how poorly coached the Falcons are, that they can't execute a stinking screen to save your life. And again, that takeout, whatever game that was the 49ers or Bills game, where I sat here on this podcast being like, oh, they should just run screens to Bijan and they'll work every time. They'll get 15 yards a pop. Ever since then, I don't think they've executed a single screen yet. It's been like 6 weeks. So that's my bad, guys. I jinxed it. Zach, Zach is an everydayer of this podcast. And he was like, yeah, let's do that. And then they didn't practice screens at all. So that was the moment. Yep. So let me know when the moment was for you when you knew the Falcons were going to lose. I mean, I kind of woke up today expecting a loss, but that's just me. You guys know that's just me. I wake up every day expecting the Falcons to lose. Oh boy. Oh, we got 7 more weeks of this, man. Oh God. All right. So we'll do our best to make it entertaining. We'll do our best. So come back tomorrow. Check us out. We'll be here, YouTube, wherever you listen to podcasts. Thank you for making the Locked On Podcast Network the #1 sports podcast network in the galaxy. And if you want to hear what's going on elsewhere around the league in Week 11, go check out Locked On NFL. They have 2 shows to catch you up with all the NFL action all across the league, the biggest stories. Maybe they'll be talking about Raheem getting fired tomorrow. So we'll see. So go check it out as your second listen. It's all part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.